Girls' education. Iqra bi-ismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Alladhi allama bil-qalam. Allama al-insana ma lam ya'lam. Read in the name of your Lord, who created, who taught by the pen, taught humanity what they knew not. The very first revelation to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a reminder that learning is the foundation of Islam. Our faith encourages the pursuit of knowledge for all people. It is a message for all men and women, girls and boys, to seek empowerment and growth through reading, writing, and learning. To this day, Islamic contributions in medicine, science, mathematics, and philosophy continue moving our civilizations forward. Muslim women have embodied righteousness and the pursuit of knowledge. From Hazrat Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, a renowned teacher and scholar, to Fatima al-Fihri, who founded the world's oldest continually operating university in Morocco in the 9th century, to Pakistan's own icons, from Fatima Jinnah to Asma Jahangir, who led our fight for freedom and justice. And all the way to Anita Zaidi and Sania Nishtar, who have advanced public health, promoted gender equality, and fought poverty. While we celebrate our rich history, we must also turn our attention to the present and the urgent crises of millions of girls who cannot go to school. This is not just happening in some small, far-flung communities. It is not isolated to a few regions or cultural groups. This is the lived reality of more than 120 million girls globally who are out of school today. And tens of millions of them live in the countries and communities represented in this room. It is a reality that most governments routinely fail to acknowledge or address with the urgency required. But today feels different. I want to thank the Muslim World League, Your Excellency Al-Isa. You have brought us together to address the barriers holding girls back from their right to go to school and the resources they need to learn. So first, we should begin by recognizing what we are up against: a crisis that holds our economies back by hundreds of billions in lost growth, a crisis harming health, safety, and security of our people. If we do not tackle this crisis, our society will not thrive as it should. If we do not tackle this crisis, we will fail to live up to Islam's fundamental values of seeking knowledge. This conference and your presence today is an encouraging first step. But we can only have an honest and serious conversation about girls' education if we can call out the worst violations of it. When we talk about the crises in Palestine, Afghanistan, Yemen, Sudan, and many other Muslim countries, rarely do we focus on how the entire future of girls is stolen. Their education is taken away. In Gaza, Israel has decimated the entire education system. They have bombed all universities, destroyed 90% of schools, and indiscriminately attacked civilians sheltering in school buildings. I will continue to call out Israel's violations of international law and human rights. Palestinian children have lost their lives and future. A Palestinian girl cannot have the future she deserves if her school is bombed and her family is killed. Girls are living under dire situation in our ummah, in Yemen, Sudan, and many countries, facing poverty, violence, and forced marriages. And in Afghanistan, an entire generation of girls is being robbed of their future. This conference will not be serving its purpose if we do not talk about the education of Afghan girls. Because Afghanistan is the only country in the world where girls are completely banned from education beyond grade 6. For the past 3.5 years, the Taliban have ripped away the right to learn from every Afghan girl. They have weaponized our faith, to justify it. The Taliban are explicit about their mission. They want to eliminate women and girls from every aspect of public life and erase them from society. They have created a system of gender apartheid. The Taliban have issued more than 100 laws to strip away women's rights, including their right to education, employment, healthcare, and every basic freedom you can think of. Their cruelty knows no bounds. Under their system of gender apartheid, the Taliban are punishing women and girls who dare to break their obscure laws by beating them up, detaining them, and harming them. Simply put, the Taliban do not see women as human beings. They cloak their crimes in cultural and religious justification. But let us be absolutely clear. There is nothing Islamic about this. These policies do not reflect the teachings of Islam. In fact, they go against everything our faith stands for. They are violations of human rights, and no cultural or religious excuse can justify them. I have a message for everyone in this room, to ministers and government representatives, to intellectuals, scholars, and public figures. As Muslim leaders, now is the time to raise your voice. Use your power. You can show true leadership. You can show true Islam. Afghan women and girls must be free to shape their own future. The very loudest champions of their cause must be fellow Muslims, leaders such as yourselves. So here are a few things that you can do right now to go beyond empty statements and stand up for Afghan women and girls. First, recognize the Taliban regime as perpetrators of gender apartheid. Do not legitimize them. Do not make compromises on our faith. Second, support the Crime Against Humanity Treaty. a global effort to codify gender apartheid in international law and hold the Taliban accountable. Push your governments to engage in the process. It is time we have real tools to prevent an extremist regime from systematically erasing women and girls like the Taliban are doing. The path forward for Afghanistan lies in political solutions instead of military force, and in using the power of international law and human rights to bring justice. The path forward also requires a united voice from Muslim scholars, a united voice from Muslim scholars to openly challenge and denounce the Taliban's oppressive laws. We must be the narrators of our faith. We must speak for what Islam stands for. That means looking at the situation of girls' education in all Muslim countries. As I stand here, I am imagining this conference as the beginning of a new journey. A new journey where we commit to a future for every girl to have access to complete quality education. And we make this vision a reality in our lifetime. The next time we all gather, I hope to see more women and girls, like the brilliant students who have joined us today, speaking on the stage and setting the agenda. Seeing you all pursue your education gives me hope for our country. Pakistan is where I began my journey. And this is where my heart will always be. 12.5 million Pakistani girls are out of school, one of the highest numbers in the world. I am glad that this conference is taking place here in Pakistan, because there is still a tremendous amount of work that is ahead of us so that every Pakistani girl can have access to her education. Distinguished guests, championing girls' education is the mission of my life. I'm here to tell you that girls around the world need us to act today. These girls need us to act for their education today, not next year, not next decade. So I ask you all in this room and your leaders, protect every girl's right to go to school for a complete 12 years. Invest the resources to make education a reality for all girls. Let us be champions of our faith by being champions for girls and their right to learn. Thank you.